Hi, welcome. In this video, this is Tiny. Tiny's here for service dog training. A bit of an angle here because I'm just starting the process. Tiny's holding a fair amount of control in the relationship. You see here I have a choke chain on her as an intermediate tool. And so because she's holding a lot of control, okay, I'm just being very intentional with really just taking my time and getting her to come into agreement, okay, in terms of the method, in terms of the script, okay, being beside me. Now, you're going to see me just take a couple minutes, okay, because this is how you want to kind of enter into a process with any dog, okay, that's holding control, is once you understand the level of control a dog's holding, the dog's holding a lot of control issues, you're trying to avoid, triggering a lot of conflict that way, okay, but at the same time, okay, you just have to really be very intentional in terms of just nudging. So here's the choke chain on her. I'm using the choke chain not to crank and yank her, but to help to gain some leverage so I can start to get her to become more agreeable to staying beside me, okay? But as I'm doing this in a proactive way, so I'm just more kind of ahead of the curve of her mind with how I'm using it. Okay, so when you use something like a choke chain, using it to help to control, especially a larger, bigger dog that can put out a lot of control. And so I'm using that as my go-between tool, okay? There's a flat collar on her. There's also a remote collar on her for vibration, okay, for the crate, specific for the crate, where she was pushing hard against that crate, wanting to get out, using that to help to get her to pull back a little bit, okay? But again, this is brand new. She just showed up here a couple hours ago, so you're seeing some real kind of raw, stuff here in terms of with getting her to move forward. So I'm going to get her move forward a little bit. You're going to see her kind of go into some conflict here a little bit with me. Bring her in here. I'm just taking my time to see her. She's got the focus here is putting influence onto her, getting her going to an interaction base, but into a sit position. But I'm just moving forward with her, just ever so slowly. She's used to, you hear same thing. When I'm putting her into a sit, I'm just putting influence onto her, so she's going to accept it and go into the sit position. There we go. Same thing. I'm just taking my time. Move forward. Because of what creates focus here, okay, it's about what I'm doing here, focus on fixing the relationship first, okay? Getting her to change the perception of the dog, with getting her to come into agreement with these specific interactions which are going to create change, okay? So how you frame up the picture. But here, is the framing up part, okay, is the position itself in terms of these interactions. You want to align this properly, okay? You don't want a dog in front of you. The dog that's holding control is going to want to go out in front and be even more desperate to get out in front, okay, or want to stop. They start to kind of dig their paws in to make it stop. But again, when you're doing this, you just want to slow down here. I'm taking my time. I'm not rushing forward. If I go too fast, the movement itself is going to cause problems because, her mind is starting to roll forward. So here, just take your time. I'm just take my time with her. She starts to understand that I'm not trying to enter into high conflict with her, okay? So it's about keeping this at a very reasonable level and at a really good pace. Same thing, move forward with her a little bit. Bring her back into the sit. Take my time. Even right here, because the thing is I want to release influence from her. So once she settles in a little bit, the idea is to, again, not to keep influence constantly coming through that choke chain, okay? Eventually, I'll switch over to the flat collar. Okay, but right here, again, I'm using it for leverage because, again, I need extra leverage with her because she's really not wanting to be right beside me for a reason, okay? She wants to be in control based, again, on what I'm doing, okay? My intent here with getting her to come into agreement with being in control this way. Okay, and move forward. See her kind of lurch here. See her lurch and move her forward here. Taking pressure off at just the right time. And then same thing. Once she comes into agreement, okay, very specific, taking pressure off, okay? The choke chain is right there, it's ready to go, but there's no influence on her. Because here's the thing, it has to make sense to a dog. It's the thing, when you line this up and you're, leveraging a dog, bring a dog under influence, okay? Once they come into acceptance of that based on specific processing, specific interactions, then immediately, okay, I'm removing the influence, okay? It's like, what you're doing, I'm speaking language to her that she will accept because she's making sense of it. But again, this ties into reconciling influence through a process, okay? How influence is an ingredient. That's about control, okay? That's why we wonder why we go about this and people want to use treats, okay? They want to use motivators. But here's the problem, is you can get agreement through a response, but still leave the door open for a dog to continue to hold control, okay, through what you're doing, through a process. It can be very confusing, but again, this is why you want to approach it this way, because it's making sure this is lining up the right way, okay? Same thing, move forward with her. Smooth and fluid technique. You want to put pressure on her bum, just wanting to collapse her mind, okay? Beautiful dog, German Shepherd, purebred. She's about a year old. I'll talk more about, some of her background here in a moment. Right now, I'm more focused just on the technique here. Again, just want to bring her in. She wants to, and this will start to happen. She'll want to go back in her crate to escape this, okay? So even there, you have to make sure you line up as well so that you're taking control at all points, so to speak. So here, entering into service dog training, she had a lot of control. She's a year of age now, and her owner, who needs help, okay, he's disabled, he needs help with that. The goal is to get her to help him out in various ways, but what happens, and this is common, is that, for me at least, is that, when people are looking for a service dog, they typically already have a dog that they want trained for service dog training, but the problem is sometimes the dog has already gained sometimes a high level of control of the relationship. And so, to get that reversed, okay, this is where how I do the training in terms of processes. The first part of that process is focused on cleaning up the relationship first, okay? It's about really focus on these specific interactions to get a dog to come into agreement with them, okay? Because that's what creates the focus, okay? So it's really focused on that first, and then you start to do, connect dogs to task-specific training, okay? So for her, she's here for today, the first day today. A lot of this is just slow, methodical, not putting too much, not doing this for too long at certain times. It's just for a couple trips around initially, then stopping, giving her a little bit of a break, because this is very challenging, right? This is very different for her. She's used to having a certain level of control through how she interacts with people, and I'm lining this up in a very specific way. Same thing, move forward, bring her in. But here's the thing with the agreeableness, because I'm doing the same thing each time. See, I'm moving the same way each time, I'm interacting the same way each time. She makes sense of it, okay? It's very specific. Okay, move her forward here. Back in, I want her to sit, go into the sit right here. Little push-pull, not too much. And I'll tap, if I need to nudge her, in terms of make sure she's not investing in anything. But here it's kind of a low distraction type of environment. So, because again, I'm not going to bring her into certain situations right now because I don't want to escalate conflict. Okay, this is very just low distraction. The idea of just lining this up first, okay, in terms of her coming into acceptance. And she's already right here. She's already starting to get much better. Okay, you see right here. Now, let me stop while I'm ahead, of course. Okay, as soon as I come around here, I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to wait a bit. I'll do some more, but again, you have to kind of vary this a little bit. When you have a dog holding a lot of control, I'd encourage people to just take your time. Okay, if you move too fast, that can cause conflict. Just take your time. And for some dogs, you'll want to use a muzzle too. Okay, I'm not using a muzzle with her, but for some dogs, depending on the level of conflict that could potentially happen, you want to use a muzzle. here with her, especially if you just start to do the method and your skill set maybe isn't quite together yet, you really definitely want to use a muzzle, okay, just to keep it safe. This isn't going to harm anything, but it's going to keep you safe. So here I could probably get away with not using a muzzle, but trust me, if I work with some dogs and I think I need a muzzle, I'm going to use a muzzle, okay, because as soon as your thinking starts to change, it affects everything. So you want to be able to focus the right way. Here, again, very agreeable. Here's the thing is that, you know, initially, she was starting to push really hard against that crate when she first came here, really trying to get out of that crate. I used the remote collar on vibration, okay, to help to kind of move her mind away from doing that. But as soon as I took her out, and this is the second time I've done this method, okay, with her, as soon as I took her out and did it once like I'm doing now, once around and put her back in, immediately that helped her a lot. Okay, she stopped. She started to settle down even more because, you know, I start to fade in, you start to fade in. So the control issues start to regress pretty quickly. But she's identifying me differently, and so her mind starts to pull back. So again, as soon as you start to tie this in, it starts to help everything else right away. Same thing, moving forward. See that? Very agreeable. I'll come up here a little bit so I can give you a better kind of picture of her, okay? Beautiful dog. I mean, Tiny is beautiful. I mean, she is great. She's a great looking dog. Again, year-old, holding, you know, I said to the owner on a scale of 10, she's up there around a 6 in terms of holding control. I'm not saying she's going to try to bite me, but, you know, just how I'm doing it, I'm just taking my time, and just, you know, this is just about kind of, you know, nudging her into agreement with these interactions, and then knowing when to stop, and then just kind of how things come together, then just kind of keep adding on to it. So again, doing really great. Day one, she's going to be here. I have the dates written up here on my board here, but she's going to be here for initially for 2 weeks. A 2-week process, full time with me. Then back with her owner for 2 weeks, and another 2 weeks with me. So it goes back and forth like that to make sure that it's you know, it's coming together properly. It's like a mirroring process, okay? But I expect she's going to be a great service dog. You know, starting off here, just understanding we'll focus on fixing the relationship first. That's where the focus comes from. And then the kind of fun stuff, right? More of the easy stuff, but all the hard work is right now. The initial few days here are the most challenging part of the process because it's focused on relationship and control, right? So you have to be very intentional. You got to be a lot more on your toes a little bit. But then once you get that kind of leveled out, it does really kind of lay the groundwork so that makes the process much easier. So, but you're going to see the whole process throughout. I'm going to show you lots of videos, right from, you know, going from the beginning to the middle to the end. So you'll get to see, and when you compare the videos, you know, you'll see the level of conflict go down and down and down. You'll see the agreeableness go up and up and up, right? So the first couple of days, you're going to have a little bit more conflict come to the surface. But the good news with this system is that it sets everything up so the dog will be agreeable to come into it, okay? There's no jerking on dogs and getting crazy because, you know, it's understanding the role of influence. So how that ties in properly in a very specific way because the dog makes sense of it, okay? The dog knows that you have their best interests at heart. You're not trying to turn it into some sort of major power play. That's not what this is about. This is about technique, skill, okay? This is about teamwork, okay? This is about, you know, understanding your role, how it's defined this way. So again, she's going to be great. Already, just after the second time around, she's already getting more agreeable already, and it's already helping her inside the crate, which is starting to settle down more. Even the barking is starting to de-escalate very quickly. So, she's doing great. Thanks for watching.